I think for me, example setting is, the backbone to what we do and what we teach. And, I suppose, first of all, before I run into the topic, I want to explain a little bit about how I see example setting and why it's important. I think for me, first of all, it's, when I think of example setting, I think that, if you were to make a list of the perfect type of guy that you'd like to get on your crew, if you were to sit down and actually make a list of the kind of skill set that you'd like that person to have, that's, again, the type of person that you need to become in order to attract that person. The second thing is, how I've always looked at it over the years has been that essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to make a photocopy of yourself. And if you want if you look at a photocopier as being the example, if you put, a piece of paper in and photocopy it, the original is always a little bit better than what comes out. And, for me, that is what example setting is. You have to be better than the people you're trying to attract. And you have to be, at the minimum, you have to be the person that you are trying to attract. To run down through some of the points, I think the first one, to be a good example, I think, you have to understand why it's important. So the first point for me is, you need to have an understanding of what's called the 2/3 rule. And obviously what the 2/3 rule is that people generally will do 2/3 of what they're shown, will retain 2/3 of information they're given, and so if you want people to do 10 pieces in your particular division, well, you need to be doing 13, 14 pieces in order for those guys to believe they can do 10. So you have to have an understanding of that. And in my experience over the years, some people try and build a crew working off bare minimums, and it just doesn't work, and people generally fall short of where you end up. So the first point is the 2/3 rule. Another important reason to set the pace for me and be a good example is, in my experience over the years of dealing with different types of people and coaching people generally, when they come into a business, don't look at what can I achieve. In my experience, they look at what can I get away with. In my experience, that what people can get away with comes from what they see you get away with. So if your timekeeping is not 100% up to scratch, your crew's timekeeping won't be up to 100% up to scratch. If you're not hitting your goals, your crew don't hit their goals. And for me, I suppose I'm always very aware that people are looking at what can I get away with here, because that's how the average person looks at things. So what they can get away with, is determined by you. Another important fact on example setting, and how I've again always looked at it, has been that I look at somebody that I'm trying to coach as being like a sponge. And the unfortunate thing about a sponge is that it takes in the good stuff and it takes in the bad stuff as well. It doesn't differentiate between what it lets in. And so for me, in somebody's first week and beyond that first week, I'm very careful with what example I'm letting them see and what they're seeing, and it's really, really important. And that's how I look at it. And when I'm building my, when I was building my crew and developing a crew of people, for me, I'm always very aware that the new person is looking at me going, do I need to be on time here? Do I need to be practicing in prime time? Do I need to be role playing? And again, do I need to be taking notes? And they get all that from the leader and from the person who's working with them. The other reason for me in regards, example setting is that, from my point of view, it eliminates excuses. And when I've ever looked at, crews that are full of excuses, or crews that are full of, cultures that are not good and aren't good foundations to build on, generally it comes from the actual leader, the person that's at the front, building that crew. The number one, the easiest way to build a crew is do what you expect your people to do. So, it's a much easier crew to run if, you're doing what you want your people to do. For me then, how you set the right example, there's lots of areas, and I think even if somebody's brand new in the business, it's not something that you need to learn. Example setting for me is a topic that if you ask somebody on their first day to sit down and make a list of what would be a good type of person in any company, they'd make that list and they'd get it accurate. For me, the difficult thing about example setting is the fact that it's the tougher choice to do. Every day that you come in, you've got an option to do things right or wrong, and that is the challenge. And the difficult thing is keeping that focus and keeping that standard of example, at the level that will allow you to achieve here. So for me, I've just made it into a few simple points in regards, what will be the example setting that I'll be looking at. The number one thing in example setting in any business for me is setting the pace. and in this business, it does mean setting the pace in your sales, doing above and beyond what you expect your people and your crew to do. And if my goal when I was on the field was to make sure that I was always pushing to break a PB, pushing to break a daily PB, pushing to break a weekly PB, and always looking to better myself and always competing against myself. And sometimes you'll see people that, want to get promoted, but what kind of ends up happening is that they take the pace they should have from other people in the office. And which means if other people are not doing things properly, your pace and your sales drop off. So for me, you have to compete against yourself. Always be pushing to break your daily PB, your weekly PB, and obviously setting the pace, being way out ahead of your crew in that. The next one, which kind of coincides with that, is that you have to make sure that you're hitting your goals. On a Monday morning, when you say what you're going to achieve for that week, it's vital that you do whatever it takes to hit that goal, because your people are watching. And an average person within this business that says, well, next week's another week. Well, if you want to be taken seriously, you can't have that attitude. You can't have the attitude that next week is another week. I missed my goal this week, but next week we'll get it hit. If you remember what I've just said a few minutes ago, the average person is looking at what can I get away with, not what can I achieve. So if you have a week where you underperform and don't hit that goal, you're going to develop that kind of a culture on your crew. So it's really important that on a Monday, when you say you're going to hit a certain target, hit a certain goal, that you go on and make sure that you do everything in your power to hit that goal. Another point is in regards to building a big crew is planning, is making sure that you've got a game plan on how to do it. And for me, I suppose I look at it like if you want a certain destination, if you want to drive to a certain city and you've never been there before, well, you need a GPS, you need some kind of a game plan in order to get there. You can't just get into the car and just drive in one particular direction and hope that you're going the right way. So with me, in my opinion, with example setting, you need to make sure that you sit down with experienced people and create this game plan of what you're going to achieve and when you're going to achieve it. So having a daily plan, having a weekly plan, having a monthly plan, is really important. And same as driving a car, that you may take a wrong turn at certain points, but if you don't have a plan, you don't know you've taken a wrong turn. So you need a plan so that when you take the wrong turn, you can turn and obviously get back onto the correct route again. And for me, one of the last points, and I suppose something that separates our business from other businesses is the networking ability. The fact that you can, you've got all these people around you, in the office you're in, you've got people, in the same city you're in, same country you're in, or around the world that you can network with. So you've got people that you can cheat and bypass and make sure that you're not making mistakes. And from my view, I remember when I was new, I remember thinking that it was okay to make mistakes and you learn from mistakes, but there's plenty of people in the business that have already made the mistakes. And so for me, the best thing you can do is network. As you move into a new stage within your journey to getting promoted, that you speak to people in advance that have been at that stage. You find out what kind of mistakes they've made. You find out how to become better. And for me, the program is a business development program. And it's a program where the key to it is that you develop and that you won't be an expert in each area. So for me, you just need to practice, over and over and over, and practice your example, and try and be the best person you can be. Something I used to do on the field, when I was building my career, I used to imagine, would I do anything different if my owner was out watching me today, or if my owner partner or my manager was out watching me today. Would I do something different? Would I move quicker? Would I close harder? Would I take less of a break? And if you can learn to walk, talk, and act like you're always being watched, and walk, talk, and act, to be the best person you can be, that's my number one bit of advice. And with example setting, if you don't get that part down, it's very, very, very difficult, and I would say virtually impossible to replace yourself and hit your goals and build that crew.